Right. So it's a pleasure to introduce Ian Palmer from Dynamic Controls, and I'm going to let you talk about what you do actually, but thank you very much for coming on.
So, hi everyone, can everyone hear me?
Yeah.
Great, okay. So, as you can tell, I'm from Dynamic Controls. Does anyone here know anything about Dynamic Controls and what we do? That's great, at least you've got a few people. Hopefully for the rest of you, you'll get a little bit of an insight into what we do. And hopefully where that's applicable to computer science and where it leads to jobs for your students in the future. So really electronics, the high-tech industry, really it comes back to why are we sort of doing what we do. And at Dynamic Controls, we define our purpose as providing technical, innovative solutions for people with disabilities. And really it's not about the technology, it's about providing solutions for people. And what I'm going to hopefully do this afternoon is to link the technology portion to solutions for people. So I just want to hopefully show you a quick slide here. Should be getting some...
The quality of life for people with disabilities. They pride themselves in providing solutions for the whole person, not just the chair that they are in. iPortal accessibility is one way that they are changing people's lives.
I met in Goa in 2006, and basically I was travelling at the time with friends, and I was in the bar having a beer and decided that I was going to go for a kind of midday swim, and literally very innocuous, walked into the water about 100 yards, saw a wave come up and dived in, and that was literally how I broke my neck. I was laying in the water, fully aware of the fact that I was conscious but unable to move, and at that point I realised I broke my neck, and I kind of thought, I was just plumbed in my bathroom, I can't believe this happened at this time in my life. And I said goodbye to everyone, because I thought that was it for me. I thought I'd died at that point. Yeah, to describe my injury, you'd say technically it's a level C4, C5 injury, which the accident left me with, which effectively what that means, in layman's terms, which is what I required initially, is that I'm paralysed from the neck downwards. So I've got shoulder movement, head movement, I can talk, I can make all the conversation, but aside from that, I'm effectively paralysed from the neck downwards. Before I came into contact with the iPortal, it was a really frustrating period. I've remained a very social and active individual, both in terms of my private and personal life, and I'd have, thankfully for me, a lot of phone calls, and I'd like to use, or I would like to, I was quite envious of people who were using modern day phone technology, so the extensive stuff, social networking, obviously text messaging, and a lot of what you do is private. I found that I used to have to do this through the help of carers or through the help of systems which were quite antiquated. The iPortals give me complete and utter independence in terms of first telephony, so phones and text messaging, but it also gives me privacy because a lot of phone calls I make are private, and I wanted to keep that way. This also helped me develop extra skills. So I'm doing a lot more Facebooking these days, other things like Skyping, what have you. I was in Austria recently skiing, and I was outside a pub having a beer, and I saw a beautiful rainbow, and it was a really nice feeling. I went out and took a fantastic picture of the rainbow, and it's a strange thing because it gave me a great feeling of independence and the fact that I'd been there and it was me that took the picture amongst other videos that I took on the road trip that I did. I'm a Sky Sportsman, so I refer to the Sky Sports often. I'm also, I enjoy my news, so I've got Sky News. I've also got Dragon Dictate, which helps me with my texting, which is a fantastic little product. Dragon Dictation is a voice recognition technology, so you can use it for a variety of different things. It could be a Google search or a Safari search. It could be to complete a text message, it could be to send an email. So effectively, I go into the app, go to select, launch the system up. We have tap and dictate, pull back. Would you like to go to the cinema? Question mark. And from there I can put that into an SMN through the features on the iPhone and automatically send that as a text, as you would with your fingers. That easy. I think they call it user-friendly or intuitive. For me, it's just common sense. It just works in terms of common sense, and it's it's almost an extension of my chin these days. I've been demonstrating this to friends of mine in spinal units throughout the UK, and it isn't just about people with high-level complex disabilities, be that spinal cord injury, cerebral palsy, or of the other range. But also, what I've found is that people with low level of injuries or less complex disability, sometimes I've gone with things like fatigue and finger movement and hand movement. And I think in that instance, it can benefit a cross-section of one disabilities and people at different levels of disabilities. I think there's enough downfalls and frustrations with disability, and I think that the dynamic side also is a way of easing at least some of that, giving you a bit of independence and privacy.
So there was a guy who was in the prime of his life, a really bright, intelligent guy. I've actually met the guy, and pretty much, if it wasn't for technology, he'd be confined to a bed, and all of his mobility would have to be provided for him. And technology and computer science is really a vehicle to actually sort of provide solutions for people. And what we've done for Andy in this case is we've been able to take sort of existing input technology like you saw the chin controls and that, and we've been able to link that into a product which is actually providing a whole gateway for him into the internet, into the whole telephone, texting, Facebook, and all of those sorts of things. And computer science, this is just one application where dynamic controls is doing that. But one thing you saw there was Andy trying to use the chin controls to operate the system. Now, wouldn't it be nice if you could sort of use vision technology to actually look at his face and be able to use gestures, to use speech a lot more? So a lot of the technologies and that which have been developed by the guys at Canterbury University and the students, basically it's about being able to take that new technology as it's evolving and actually apply that into solutions that make people's life better. And certainly for the space that Dynamic works is, we're about creating independence and freedom for people. And some of the technologies that I sort of in my job sort of see it as a privilege to engage with some of these. I was talking to someone who provided an eye gaze unit to someone who this boy was just 5 years old. He had no speech, no movement, and through eye gaze, it was a way of him being able to communicate to the rest of the world. It was the first time he'd actually been able to have a conversation with people. So the technology through computer science is, I believe, is really important for us. And you guys need to really sort of spark the enthusiasm and train the new generations coming through, so that we can sort of create these fantastic products. I'm just going to touch on a little bit of what I call the ecosystem of a wheelchair. You tend to think of a wheelchair as quite a it's a motor, it's a battery, a couple of wheels and things like that. But it's a highly complex device. And a lot of things that you just take for granted on your car, and these wheelchairs cost as much as a car at the high end. You've got various input controls. You've got dual control. Imagine that on your car. Maybe not. We've got lighting control. We've got to meet all the lighting regulations so people can drive outside. We've got gyroscopic control for stability control. That's just coming on in the automotive industry. And where we're looking to go to is, you've seen like the park assist in the automotive. And those are the sorts of things that we're wanting to do in the future with wheelchair space. And where in the automotive industry, it's a nice to have, it's a convenience. For people with a disability, it really makes a difference between them being able to do something and not do something, or have that independence, or have a carer or someone else have to provide that for them. And I've just got a little bit of an example, and I don't know how well that sort of shows, but this is a project that we were doing with Richard Green's team at Canterbury University a couple of years ago, where we were able to identify features so we could actually detect a door or a corridor, and then we can actually merge that vision technology to be able to control the wheelchair, to actually make it for someone who maybe has got tremor and they can't actually drive the chair properly, or maybe they've got a head control unit like Andy, or a chin control, where they don't get the fine control, so that driving down a corridor can be an absolute nightmare for people. Whereas the addition of a fairly low-cost camera and control system could make the difference between them just saying, almost like pushing a button saying, take me to the end of the corridor. So, there's a whole stack of technology that we're looking to sort of link into, which is highly relevant to, I believe, the stuff that Tim's putting together, for the students looking into the future. So, I'm going to keep the talk really short today and maybe give you an opportunity to ask me some questions. But to create our electronic systems that we sell worldwide, we've got 45% of the world share of wheelchair control systems, which are designed and controlled from Christchurch here. It takes a lot of people, a lot of different skills, a lot of different technical abilities to actually make that happen. And it's really important for us as a company, and I think for New Zealand as a whole entity, to actually keep feeding into the system all these technical people, these engineers, these scientists, mathematicians, to enable us to make these great products. And Dynamic is one of probably almost a dozen companies within Christchurch which are doing these sort of high-tech type products where we need these types of people. So I'm just going to sort of leave it there and give you a chance to ask me a few questions and maybe come back with a few comments.
I've seen on TV wheelchairs where there are 4 wheels, but it was able to rotate it, so it basically stood up on 2 wheels and balanced in the same way as Segways balance.
Yep.
And that enabled people to stand and have a conversation with standing adults.
Yes.
But also enabled them to go up and down stairways because the wheels could sort of do all the things they needed to do to take the wheelchair down the stairway. Do those things, are they still in vogue? Are they still being used?
That's a really good example of some great technology, and that's from a product called the iBots. It was developed by Johnson & Johnson probably about 10 years ago. One of the problems with that, it was a great piece of technology, but it was probably a little bit too complicated.
It looked cool.
And there was a few issues where occasionally it would lose balance and things like that, which wasn't so cool.
Not fun.
Yeah. To answer your question, a lot of those things like stand-up chairs and not so much the stair climbing, those sort of technologies are actually provided by seating control. So you maybe noticed in that complex diagram, seating was a function. We're able with the high-end systems to be able to take someone from a sitting position to a standing position or to a completely reclining position. And compared with the Segway, it gets them into a more natural position where you can actually sort of take weight off the body, and that's good from a health reason to be able to do that.
I'm starting to get an idea of how many people are needed. It's actually quite mind-blowing. How many people do you employ?
Okay, to give you an idea of the development of our systems, we've got about 60 engineers, and if you want to develop a system from scratch, you're probably talking the majority of that team working for 2 or 3 years to achieve that. So it's a huge amount of effort, not only to design it, but to actually make sure that it's safe. So it's, there's a lot of people involved.
When does your wheelchair become a robot?
That was last week's discussion. Yeah, I did actually consider putting some other stuff that we're working on where we're looking at integrating our electronics into robotic arms. And almost where I see the wheelchair, it's actually a merging of a robot and a transport, electrical vehicle. And really, a lot of what we're trying to do, I looked through a little bit of the curriculum of what you're covering, like machine learning, the vision side of it. All those things are techniques that we're using. The difference is, I guess, between a robot and a wheelchair is you're always trying to give the person as much control as possible, but you're having to do it in a way which supports them as much as possible. So if they're using a joystick control, you can give them a lot more independent control. But if someone's got a chin control or a sit and buff unit, then the chair's got to do a lot more for them. So to answer your question, it's a fusion.
A few years ago I had a couple of girls who were actually really good in a programming class, and when I tried to convince them that they should do computer science, they said, oh no, we want to be doctors, we want to.
Yes.
Do you, what percentage of your staff?
Oh, women. Not very many, but having said that, and that the problem is because there's a choice made at high school where being a lawyer or being a doctor is a lot more sexy, if you like, than being an engineer. But really there is no barriers, and some of our best engineers are women engineers, and some of our best project managers who actually do all the coordination work, they're women as well. So certainly there's no physical reason whatsoever why women shouldn't go into it, and they actually bring a different way of thinking, a different approach to the problems. So bring them on.
Are you a not-for-profit or are you a regular business?
We're a regular business.
And you've started and always been in enabling the disabled? Is it your businesses?
No, Dynamic Control started 40 years ago, and it almost started as an import-export sort of business, where they imported electronic control units for industrial applications, forklift trucks and things like that. And pretty quickly they realised if they wanted to import, they actually needed the technical knowledge to be able to understand what they're importing. And what because they got some of the guys from Canterbury University and got a bit of help from, they actually realised that they could do better controls than they were importing, so they then started manufacturing. And the whole way that Dynamic got into wheelchairs is there was a local importer of wheelchairs, and he said, I've got this wheelchair and it drives like crap. Can you guys help me sort it out? And the guys had a look at it and they basically re-engineered it. And they made it drive a lot better. And then they actually said, right, we can actually get into this business. And pretty much within 2 to 3 years, they turned from distributing locally to exporting to Australia and exporting to the US. Right?
Do you have an innovation in where staff can try and do different projects that they might be interested in?
Yeah, it's something over the last few years. We realised that a few years ago that we were quite stale, and we were just turning out sort of more of the same. So we actually looked at how we could actually get staff to be a whole lot more innovative and creative, and actually really tap into their knowledge more. So there's a number of things that we do. I actually started basically a technology incubator. Me as a senior manager, I could actually call on resources to say, this is a great idea, right, let's work on this. And out of that, we've sort of brainstormed and taken to field trials, probably 4 or 5 sort of prototype products, which are out there at the moment. So at a corporate level, that's one way that we actually have that sort of incubator. The other thing we do is we have a 10% innovation time for the engineering team, so that during the week they've got 4 hours a week that they can go away and work on their personal pet projects. It needs to be in that engineering space, but it gives them an opportunity to go away and explore things and work together. And one of the things that we've done alongside that to oil that process is we've just started a process of having an innovation day. So we had our first one a couple of weeks ago, and that was just amazing what came out of it, where basically we said, right, everyone is going to start work on their day job, and they've got all day to actually work on what they want to work on. And what was amazing was they actually formed together in these groups of people, in these teams, working on these different projects. And we got 6 working prototypes out of that day. It was just amazing. You get clever people together and they'll do clever things.
I can see there's a need out there for at year 10, or they choose their subjects, or they believe that they're going to be scientists and whatever, for guest speakers like yourself to come into schools term 3 and talk to them and tell them what it's all about and get them enthused and get them interested. And then we've got the PG for Girls' Day, you know, and maybe even that, but I think it needs to be in schools. I think it needs to, and you've got to commit the people to come out to schools because, you know, that's how you're going to get them. That's what I believe anyway.
Yeah, well we do, on that we probably do 2 or 3 days where we get schools come in and we'll talk about their career opportunities, actually show them what we do and give them a chance to talk briefly to a few people. Yeah, we need to do more about it.
If you want us to produce them, you've got to help us.
Yeah. Di, we'll talk about that a bit tomorrow because there are 2 programs, Future and Teeth and ICT Connect, that do exactly that, and a lot of the companies are looking to do that. So, Ian, thank you very much.
You're welcome.